Allison.
And I'm Bryce.
And we're
Better Half Reviews.
And today we are looking at
Everdell.
So Everdell is a game published by Starling Games and designed by James A. Wilson, and the beautiful art is by Andrew Bosley.
The goal in Everdell is to score the most points and win, like almost every game. But in Everdell, you're building up your city in preparation for winter. And this isn't any ordinary city. This is a city full of critters and fun buildings that these critters live in and work in.
And the fun thing with building up your city is all the cards have different powers or abilities, and some of them play off of each other. So you can gain like extra resources and other fun things.
There's lots of synergy between the cards.
Ooh, fancy word.
Yep.
And it's also a worker placement game. So you have all these different meeples that are shaped like squirrels, porcupines, turtles. It's adorable. Let's be real. So when I first heard about this game and I saw the picture, I was like, I gotta have this game because it just looks so good. And it luckily plays well too. Definitely
the art draws you into the game, for sure. And then it's backed up really well with good gameplay.
And this game you can play by yourself, or you can play up to 4 players with the base game. And just so you know, some of the components in our game may be different from the retail because we have the collector's edition. So it comes with metal coins and a few extra cards and a cool sleeve that we have pictured here.
Yep.
And one of the other things that stands out in Everdell is this tree.
We got ours on Kickstarter and as a stretch goal.
It's a wooden edition, so it's a little bit more sturdy than the cardboard tree that comes with the regular version. It's decorative, but it's also useful for the game. You put up meeples here, and each season you get a few more meeples to help you do more on your turn. And it can also hold the decks of cards and some special events. Alright, so just to start out with, these walnut holders did not come with the game. That's something that we got ourselves just to hold some of our components.
A friend of ours 3D printed it for us.
It was awesome. So up here on the tree is where you have your extra meeples. After you go through each season, you can pick up a little bit more each time. But for the beginning of the game, you start with 2 meeples. Doesn't seem like much, but it'll go very quickly. So you have different locations that you visit with your meeple. You have the basic locations up top, and then the forest locations here on the side. Some locations can have only 1 meeple go to, while others with an open circle can have more than one of different players' meeples there. Different areas allow you to get different resources. I want to show off some of these. You have the wood twigs, the resin tokens, stone, and the best ones, the berries. I mean, look at these. We will find that later. And that one. And then you have the meadow here where everyone can see those cards, obviously, so you want to try to get some of those good ones before they're gone, but then you have the deck that you draw from, which I like that the tree holds the cards very well. These coins came in the collector's edition, so they're not in the base game. And so yeah, as you can see, like everything looks really pretty together. And I'll show you this, like I took the card away. You know that it goes to that spot because the back matches it. And then some of these events, they have some markings on them, and you can tell exactly where they go because this has this little piece of rock there. It matches that. It's so cool how everything just fits together. And if you even zoom in on this, you can see little critters walking around on different paths. So they're walking around on a bridge, there's a little quarry. There's so much detail in this artwork. It is amazing. So if you love games with great art and theme, this is the game for you. So this is one of the examples of a special event card. You notice at the top it says you need the courthouse and the ranger. So those are 2 specific cards you need in order to get this event, and it has the little paw print which means you have to put one of the meeples on there in order to get this event. And it has a little tiny writing telling you what it does and what you can do to get those points.
And here we see that this will require the judge and the queen.
We did, at least.
And there's my hand. So here we can see that this special event requires the judge and the queen. When you have those two critters, you'll put a meeple here. And then you're able to activate your green production cards and get 3 victory points for the end of the game.
And activating your green production cards are helpful because that's a way to get lots of resources outside of when you collect cards. Alright, so what are some of the negatives with Everdell?
So one of my biggest complaints is the special event cards, which this is fixed in expansions of the game, which we'll talk about in other videos. But in the base game, these special event cards require very specific critters or buildings to be played into your city, that it feels like it's almost impossible to do.
The deck of cards is decently thick, so...
It's 128 cards, something like that.
That's a very specific number. I don't know, for sure. But yeah, so that is true. It makes it a little bit harder to get like those 2 specific cards because you may not even see it in your whole game. It's possible.
You have these special events that you're trying to get to, and you could be working on the whole game, but never see it.
True.
And you have 4 special events, and you might not even be able to do any of them.
And then there's some games that are like perfect, and you get all of them, which is hard to do. One of my complaints, which is kind of minor, when you're learning the game on all of the cards, the writing's kind of small. So until you become familiar with what the cards are, you're like, what does this one do? Okay. Wait, what does this one do? Because you can't always just look at it and see, because this game has a big table presence. So depending on how many players you have, you might be a little bit far away from the cards. So that is one of the negatives, but once you've played it a few times, you're kind of like, oh yeah, I remember, and every once in a while you have to double check. So for me, it's something I don't worry about too much anymore, but as a beginner, it can be a little bit annoying.
And it's not helped out by the tree. While it is nice and it does hold some cards, the cards lay flat on the tree.
The special events, yeah.
So as, when the tree is far away from you,
you can't
you're like,
even read it.
what's that? So yeah, it does go to that.
We got some little holders that stand up our cards so we can see it easier now.
But that's a minor complaint. Like Allison said, once you learn the cards, it's really easy to remember what they are and what they do.
So now to the positives of Everdell. Okay, can I just say beautiful? Everything with this game, the board is laid out, things that go on the board match the art, so it's all cohesive and just really pretty. I love the look of the game. Before I ever played it, I was like, I'm gonna love this game.
And again, we'll get into expansions, but the expansions have the artwork continue from the board to the new boards.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
We are getting ahead of ourselves, but I think it's done really well. All the artwork in this game is fantastic.
And then one of the other big positives is the components. Everything in this game is fantastic. You have these squishy little berry components and the resin components and twigs, and the quality of the cards. We haven't sleeved these cards, and they've had a lot of use, and there's hardly any wear and tear on them.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the meeples being their own unique critters, that's awesome.
And all different colors. Yeah, it's really cool.
So every game is unique and different because you do have such a big stack of cards, and you're not going to see all of them throughout the game. And there could be 1 or 2 cards in the whole stack of that type. And so, like I said, every game's unique. Some games you have really quick starts, some games you have really slow starts, but everything is balanced really well, that even if you have a slow start, you could still end up winning.
And speaking of slow starts, you start with 2 workers, and you're like, how can I do anything with 2 workers? And that's what he's saying. Like some seasons, like when you start, you're kind of slow, and you're like, I'm never gonna be able to fill out my city. Like you're supposed to have that 15 cards fills your city. Like that's never gonna happen. And then by the time you get to the last season, you've got extra resources. You have no more space to put down things in your city. It's really interesting to see how it just expands. Like the cards and everything just kind of play off of each other to really explode your city.
Yeah, it does feel like you get a very slow start sometimes, but then by the end of it,
it picks up quick.
It's hard to choose what you want to do because you have so many options.
Yeah, like I've had a season just take like the first season take like a minute or two, and you're like, wow, that was fast. This game's gonna be over really quick. And then the last season, you're like, okay, should I do this or that? No. If I do this, then I can do that, because you have to like optimize how many workers you have, and if the place is even open for your worker to go to.
Well, and not even that. You have to also optimize the points on the cards that you're getting and be like, okay, well, I could pick up that card, but it's only worth 2 points.
But then I could do this and get this special event or this basic event. There's so many choices.
Yeah, like I said, it's balanced really well. Even if someone has a great start and fills up half their city in the first season, which I think I've done once or twice, just with how the cards were just being perfect for me, it still does feel like it comes down to the wire, and it's just balanced really, really well. Mm-hmm. No one can just, or rarely will someone just run away with a game.
That's true. And one of the things I really love about Everdell is it's a fantastic competitive game against players, but it's also a really fun solo game, and I'm going to have a solo review coming up shortly, so you can check that out and see what solo Everdell is all about and the challenges with that. So yeah, that's the gist of Everdell. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to like and subscribe, you can see more of our videos.
And, like we've mentioned, we're going to have more Everdell content coming out. So be sure to follow us here on YouTube, on Instagram, to be able to see that. I'm Bryce.
I'm Allison.
And we're Better Half Reviews.
Happy gaming!
Have fun!